So this is going to be our bold predictions show.
Drake London goes for 1,200 receiving yards this year.
There was only 7 players last year who topped 1,200 yards. Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, Stephon Diggs, C.D. Lamb, Jalen Waddle.
Look at the release.
There's your separation.
Great route.
Stutter and go. Gets by clean.
That is unbelievable.
May be the greatest catch I've ever seen.
Kind of, I don't want to say hot take-ish, but like semi-hot take-ish, bold predictions here. We're going to create a little path for this to happen. Explain our thought processes behind this. But yeah, this is our bold predictions episode, man. Matt, why don't you kick us off, man? What you got?
Yeah, I'll say this too, obviously, because I do host another podcast. We did a no shock. Everybody does bold predictions episode. I did not overlap with any of those ones that I did on the Yahoo podcast, but I will tell people the 5 here. I want you to go listen to it for my reasoning, but I'll tell you, I'm not going to mention any of these. These are my 5 bold predictions on that show. I had Dameon Pierce leads the NFL in rushing yards. I had Amon-Ra St. Brown gets the triple crown. I had Marvin Mims as leads all rookie wide receivers in yards. I had Jake Ferguson finishes as a top 12 tight end. And of course, I had to get a Steelers thing in there. I said the Steelers finish as a top 10 offense in some kind of important metric, success rate, EPA per play, DVOA, whatever. I don't care. So I don't overlap anything that like happened in those, but I want those on the record here. So that you know how bold predictions are, James. The rules of bold predictions is that if we get these even kind of close to sort of right, we get to, beat our chest about it. But if 100%. We get them wrong, no accountability. Those are bold predictions. It doesn't matter. So those are the rules. We've established things I'm not going to talk about and the rules of bold predictions. Okay. I'll start off this one, and this one's a little bit timely. Drake London goes for 1,200 receiving yards this year.
Yeah, I like
this one. Obviously, we love Drake London, the player. We are obviously big fans of his game. People know that. Last year, really, I think, established himself as the top dog on this offense. That obviously is something I definitely think. And, there was Adam Levitan was creating a little stir on Twitter this morning when he shared a article from Josh Kendall, who covers the Falcons for The Athletic, where he said that don't be surprised if Kyle Pitts finishes 4th on this team in targets, which of course caught people up in a stir. But my point between these two guys is that, I like Kyle Pitts. I'm a fan of Kyle Pitts, but I think Drake London had just established himself right away at the beginning of the last season as the best and most consistent pass catcher on this team. So, I think they will obviously have to throw the ball more than they will last year. I think they are going to do that. The player, Drake London, is just so good. And I do think, like, when you look at this passing tree, Kyle Pitts included, I just think Drake London is so far and away the alpha of this receiving hierarchy here. More than Bijan Robinson, obviously more than Mac Hollins, right? I do think Drake London goes for 1,200 yards this year.
Okay, 1,200 yards, by the way. I feel like people overinflate some of these stats sometimes because 1,200 yards, by the way, is very difficult to do.
Yeah.
There was only 7 players last year who topped 1,200 yards. We'll go ahead and give it to Devontae Smith. He'll be number 8 because he had 1196 through the air. Okay, so we'll go ahead and give it to him. But 8 players basically that topped 1,200 yards last year. And when you're taking a look at some of the profiles, like what are some of the metrics? Not even metrics, but just like volume numbers that some of these guys look at. The vast majority, Jalen Waddle got to 1,356 on 117 targets. That
crazy,
insane. That's just, that's madness, dude. What I'm saying? But, in terms of the top 7 or 8 guys, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, Stephon Diggs, C.D. Lamb, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith. Again, we'll just go ahead and give it to him. When you look at that list, Matt, there's a lot of, again, outside X receivers there. I think C.D. Lamb's probably, your only guy that lined up mostly inside versus outside. And by the way, Matt, this is why I always say whenever I'm looking at profiles for guys that could break out, I always look to guys that play outside. because this is the profile generally of guys who do well in fantasy football and rack up those yards. They generally play outside.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, these big time outside receivers are generally the guys that are going to do it. And we know that that's who Drake London was last year for the Falcons. There's some positional versatility stuff with him where he can play inside. He can be like a big slot type receiver. But yeah, I think that he last year went out and showed that he's a true X and is going to win in that fashion. So he's an easy guy, I think, to bet on as a breakout this year. 1,200 yards is definitely a bold prediction. Like he could have 1,000 and 7-8 touchdowns and be a big breakout. If he gets to 1,200, we're talking about like him establishing himself as a fringe top 10 receiver in the NFL, which I do think he has the ability to be that guy.
By the way, this is kind of a callback to my NFL Network days. But remember the March to 1,100? It's like that. It was a big deal to get to 1,100 yards. It wasn't easy to do back on a 16-game slate as well. So yeah, when you say 1,200 yards, that is for sure a bold prediction. By the way, so
only 15 guys got 1,100 last year.
I was gonna say only 15 dudes got 1,100 yards. Man, it's tough. It's a tough number to crack for sure.